Good morning. My name is Tiens Holtzhausen and I'm the Business Executive at Caseware Africa with Adapt IT. What a pleasure to see some people in person this morning, and also welcome to our virtual audience who is joining us from wherever you may be today. The last 2 years will be remembered as a period of significant change. Change in the way we work, in the way we live, and ultimately in the way we interact with one another whilst doing these very things. One fact remains: we are constantly evolving with new ways to deliver more value than ever before. Insight exponentially elevates the value conversation. Analytics provide insight. What a pleasure to welcome today internal auditors, partners of firms, audit managers, financial analysts, clerks, bookkeepers, accountants, CEOs, CFOs, and business leaders, financial managers, municipal managers, users of our solutions, and prospective buyers, Caseware staff, and our esteemed guest speaker here today. Caseware has been very focused on making it easier for clients to acquire the entire suite of Caseware solutions in our local markets. So with this said, in 2020, we have taken on the distribution of Caseware IDEA for external audit. And now we are expanding our reach with Caseware IDEA for internal audit, for corporates, for public sector, and for governance. Caseware Africa has been the proud distributor of working papers on the continent for 3 decades. And now with the addition of analytics, we can achieve so much more. To kick off our program with Why Data Analytics, I want to invite to the stage our divisional executive, Jody Joseph. Let's put our hands together.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, it's been a good 3 years since I've stood in front of a live audience. So nice to see some people in person. So I guess the big question is, why data analytics and why now? So if you have a look at the slide there, you can hardly see 2022 where we are today. And it almost looks like there's been no data historically. But you can really see we've only just getting started in the amount of data that the world is producing. So at Caseware, we've got a very different vision of what should happen now and what we should be ready for as data explodes globally. We believe the CFOs and financial managers should be empowered to use analytics tools to know. Never again should a financial manager be in a position where the auditor found something they didn't know. Those auditors arrive for a very limited time in the year under a lot of budget pressure. How can they possibly find something you can't find when you're running the business 365 days of the year? The tools are easily accessible. Your financial team would be delighted to look at the world in a different way, and also to know they're looking at 100% of the population. In some of the examples in my career, we often get focused on large transactions. Has the right person approved it? Has all of that happened? But in one of the frauds I came across, it was a debtor's every 5 cents was taken off every debtor's receipt and parked in this other debtor's account. The person involved found a way to get it out of the organization. So if you were focusing on material things and big things, you never would have spotted it. But using the right analytics tool would have said, it's interesting, you've got this very high volume of these very tiny transactions. Given your nature of your business, this doesn't make sense. Best you go have a look at it. And that's the power of an analytics tool when it can look at the population. Humans can't consume that data in that way, and they haven't invented those Google glasses yet to identify patterns. I'm sure they're coming. But the analytics tools can look and find patterns because of how data arrives and is organized. Humans can't do that. What can the humans do? The humans can apply insight to those patterns, understand the business, apply their judgment and say, the pattern fits or the pattern doesn't fit. But wow, I never thought my data looked like that. And you'll see some of that from the team later today. You also, as a CFO, once you've worked out these things you want to look at, once you've worked out the analytics tests that should always be 0 or no exceptions, you can schedule them. They can arrive with you. They don't have to be projects. They can become a way of life. They can be things you plug into the way we work all the time. And someone is always checking to see there's nothing strange. Or as your data pattern evolves over time, does it make sense with how your business is evolving? Because all our businesses change dynamically. We're going through pricing and bundling changes, how we sell our software. Do we see that transformation coming through in the data? When we move to internal audits, internal audits are empowered more than ever before. You don't need to follow just a judgment and risk-based approach. You could actually run tests on data, and some of the tests that I've described would say to you, this is more risky than you might have thought, because look at what your data looks like. Or you were assuming you do your controls testing once a month or when the audit committee wants you to do it. Use the right tool, build in your control testing, do it all the time. Give a better frequency of assurance. When you pick up issues, deal with them then and there, into the financial managers, improve it, and it's gone. When the auditors arrive at the end of the year, you can say, well, we had a control issue in Q1, we've solved it, we've monitored it for the whole year. What does that mean for the auditors? Hopefully they've now got a less risky client, so they're delighted. They should hopefully be able to rely on those test of controls. They can do less work for assurance purposes. They're more comfortable. The budget price of the audit goes down. The whole governance framework and all the role players are in a far better position. So we see that the whole way it should be transformed is the analytics must start where the action happens. And all the layers of governance must lie on top of that. Historically, it's almost been the other way around. You wait for the auditors to come in and tell you what you missed for the whole year. We're saying you should tell the auditors what happened in the whole year, what you picked up, what has changed in the patterns and those kind of things. Where we've seen auditors get real value in the last 12 months has been just changing their sampling techniques. As that rate of data grows, you can imagine if you're not sampling with statistical sampling and you're not relying on test of controls, there's definitely not enough money in the budget to test the sample. We've seen audit clerks' eyes glaze over saying, I really have to test those many invoices to source and to receipts in the bank. We'll say, well, why aren't you running a test to say, invoice receipts in the bank, here's the set that doesn't match, have a look at that. And actually, you didn't even need to do a sample test. We did 100% of the population, found the anomalies, focus on the gaps. Clients that have implemented it have saved hundreds of thousands of rand on their audits and have been able to deploy that money into much more value-adding services for the clients, or to focus much more on high-risky areas of the audits. So we've got real stories from real clients that have said that they've done it. They took the leap and they did it. So I think for me, pre-COVID, we were all talking about fourth industrial revolution technologies. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, all of those kind of things. Then I think COVID happened and collaboration technologies became the order of the day, right? We had to find a way to work together, all working from home. But the reality is data analytics and machine learning and AI, a lot of it has been around for quite a while. If you take Caseware IDEA itself, it's been around for 30 years, used by over 500,000 people globally. It's tried and tested, matured and robust, and it arrives with a lot of stuff out the box. It's extremely powerful in the size of data it can deal with. When we look at that, I don't know what Excel's doing about the number of rows, but they better sort it out quickly because it's going to be crashing all the time going forward if the data grows like that. Also, it's not as expensive as you like to think. We were discussing with some of our clients today, if you go for fully fledged continuous control monitoring and that, some of those tools can be in the 10s or 20 million range. To start your data analytics journey is not a massive outlay. You can start small and very quickly generate a positive return on investments and create real value in your businesses. An important point I'd like to cover today as well is what is data analytics tool and what's a BI tool? Many of us over the last few years have embraced Power BI, Tableau, similar kinds of tools to visualize our data. I think for many of us being finance professionals, there's nothing more beautiful than a spreadsheet with maybe a little bit of color and conditional formatting. But I think we've realized the whole business and all our stakeholders and everyone we work with aren't accountants who love spreadsheets and need different ways to consume their information and act on it. So those tools, in my opinion, help a lot with that. But they arrive, I would say, pretty empty, and you need to know where your data is, what you're trying to understand about your data, and then how to visualize it. And they do visualization very well. What a Caseware IDEA product brings for you is powerful analytics on scale. So where you've got very, very large data sets, that's not the ideal data set to necessarily put into a Power BI and work from core with it. Let the Caseware IDEA do the heavy lifting. Let it do the analytical work and the insight gathering. And the BI tool is there to visualize, distribute, and drive the call to action on the insights that you've seen. So we believe it's a very symbiotic relationship. And if you get it set up properly in your organization, they're very complementary and you get true value if you add them together. So what should you do today? When you leave today, and once you've seen the wonderful demos and discussions our team has, what do? So from our point of view, we say acquire a robust data analytics solution. And when we say that, pay attention to some key things. The size of data it can handle. Critical thing, once you get started, you're going to be astounded about how much data is out there. It's much more than you're ever thinking today. I spoke to some of our partners and colleagues today, and they say you don't understand how much data you've got. What we'll show you. Number two, what can you do at a click of a button out the box to start understanding your data and looking at it in a different way? Is it a great calculation engine that needs a lot of configuration, or does it arrive out the box with rich tests that can help you accelerate your start to get some real insights? And another important point from our point of view is when you choose a solution, you're not just choosing the software, you're choosing the partner, us, Caseware. And why Caseware? Been at it for 30 years. Yes, not necessarily Caseware Africa, but we belong to the broader Caseware group, direct access into global skills, different markets, different use cases globally. They've seen it and they've done it before. Number two, partner that can meet you where you're at. Are you mature and looking to accelerate and introduce sophisticated stuff? Or are you really at the start of the journey and you really don't even know where to start? We will meet you where you're at, and we have the people that can bring whatever level of value you're looking for. From a personal point of view, the next point for me is very important. Where do you start? So I've got a bit of a combination of factors I look for. Look for where there's natural interest, where someone's looking for different insights in their business and they've got appetite. If you're a data junkie like me with a high J score in your Myers-Briggs test, they're normally good ones because everything must be evidence and everything must be fact. So pick some of those. And start with a small enough unit where the time to value is quick. We'll go take this data set, we'll put it through the analytics, we'll see what we learn, and we'll work out some real business value to deliver. And generally delivering business values, you're either changing a process, you're bringing a different insight to a stakeholder that helps them either improve a control they're working on, target different customers where they're going to sell and achieve better rates of return, maybe eliminate waste. You start seeing there's 3 steps in a process where you actually could achieve the same with 1. But the real value around data analytics is not just, oh, get the insight, that looks great, let's move on. It's what does it mean? And what is the call to action in your business because you have this new insight? And then it becomes a bit of the snowball effect. You learn from that one, you do something more, someone else in the organization hears why so-and-so got such a great insight to help them improve their business and meet their KPIs. I want a bit of that too. Come and show me what you can do in my area of my business. And what we've found in our own business is once you expose the data and the insights to everyone in the business, They all bring great ideas. They all bring more questions. There's a great phrase I heard at another conference, is make everyone a Joe. Give them their insights into their area of their business, and they'll amaze you with what they do. The questions they ask, the things they say, that doesn't look right. That's not how I understand my business. What's going on here? And that's the future world. The only way we will manage in a world with that amount of data, if everyone learns how to look at their data, analyze their data, use machine learning and AI to take us into the future. And the time to start is now and today. So I look forward to all the conversations we'll be having with everyone after today. And remember, we can meet you where you're at. The most important thing is if you haven't started, that you take that first step.
What I always enjoy about Jodie's explanation of things is the practical application. That it feels like a very achievable goal for anyone that wants to start with data analytics. So thank you for that practical overview. I really had a thorough appreciation for that. Next up is our guest speaker with our keynote address today. Buckley Glamini is an author and a sought-after international speaker, assisting leaders and organizations to create a winning culture, to own the future, and to manage diversity and cultural intelligence. A winner of numerous entrepreneurship awards and an experienced business leader, serving on numerous boards. He has met and worked with iconic leaders like Nelson Mandela and received an award from Desmond Tutu. He's spoken for iconic companies like Caseware Africa. But what impressed me more about Buckley is that he's a small town boy that grew up in a rural area in KZN. He might live in the Greater Canada today, where Caseware International is also based, but he's still a thorough South African at heart. He comes back often, and we are happy to have him with us today during his visit right now. Buckley, please join us.
It's so great to join with you this morning. Thank you, Tian. Thank you, Jodie, for those presentations this morning that just help us to understand the importance of analytics. Without change, there's no progress, right? Without change, there's no moving forward. And so how do you unleash your greatness, as we've heard today, and using the data analytics in a fast changing world? That is my focus. My focus is helping my clients to say, what do you need to do today in order to own the future? Because the future will catch us by surprise, unless we think about what it is that we need to do today in order to own the future. And of course, dun, 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 the 2020s came, and a big surprise, and it changed the way that we do things, the way that we worked, and the way that we lived. And the pandemic changed many of the things that we thought would never be possible. I was talking to Tians, and he was telling me that last year when we spoke to 10,000 people online. And if you had said that to Tians 2 years ago, they would have said, there's no way you're going to be able to get 10,000 people interested in connecting with you. But with the 2020s have come the decade of disruptions. And so as we find ourselves in this decade of disruptions, there are going to be even more disruptions as we go forward. And so for us as leaders, we need to do what we need to do to make sure that we have all the information at our fingertips that will allow us to make decisions as quickly as we need to. And so that is why what we are talking about is so important today. Because if you're going to lead into the future, you've got to think like a futurist. What does that mean? Does it mean that you have a crystal ball to be able to tell the future? Not quite. Because a futurist really is someone who intentionally develops. Oh, that went too fast. Okay, so let's go back. So a futurist is someone who intentionally builds the capacity to see and understand the implications of change. And so with data analytics, you can become a futurist. Because with data analytics, you can use the data that's available to actually do predictive data analytics, which tells you what the data is showing you and what that data means for where you are going. You can use data for many other things as well. So let's put this into perspective, because sometimes it's easier to picture things when we're actually looking at something. So I'm going to put up a video. And the question to you and to those who are online You can also respond on the chat and to the question here. As you watch this video, it's taken in India, traffic, and as cars move, the question that I have for you is, what do you think are the rules that apply in this scenario? What are the rules that these motorists are applying? So take a look. There's no traffic light, yet there's no accident. Okay. Watch a little bit further. And then while it plays, I'm going to ask for some idea as to what is the rule that everybody is obeying. What are the rules? Tell me. Don't hit anything, just hoot. Flow. Come on. Caution. Those are nice rules, but they won't help us to stop from hitting each other. You were saying? Look for a gap. Come on, someone can get this. No rules. I love that. Stay alive. Don't stop moving. Well, the rule is size. The size has the right of way. So the bigger you are, that's your right of way. And everybody understands. So you see, you will watch as the cars come, motorbikes, that's their right of way now. But when the cars come, they have to give way to the car. When the truck comes, everybody gives way to the truck. And the same thing applies. When the bus comes, it doesn't even hit the brakes. He knows that he has right of way. So when you know the rules, you can predict and you can actually navigate a very difficult situation. And so that's what data analytics allows you to do. It allows you to navigate. And as we get into the 2030s, the reality is that our world is going to continue to change at a very rapid rate. And what is it that we need to do in order for us to be best positioned to actually own the future? And so Jody has already mentioned that machine learning, computing power is continually increasing, artificial intelligence. These are no longer things of the future. These are the things actually of yesterday. Like, we don't need to think about the fourth industrial revolution as something somewhere in the horizon, you know. I remember when our ministers here in South Africa were speaking about the fourth industrial revolution. You know, it was so almost like, you know, it's there now, it's coming, it's around Pretoria, you know, we're just going to see it when it comes around. No, it's already here. And so the key for us as leaders then is to think about how do we use what is already available in order to set us apart. So how do you unleash your greatness? Then I look at a person next to you and say to them, you are great. Say it now, do it. How many of us hear this every day when you come to the office? You know, they start clapping and they start ululating as you walk through the doors and they shout, yeah, you are great. Let me see a show of hands. Okay, maybe not at the office, okay? Maybe when you come home after a hard day, you know, you've been working and you've been dealing with finances and all, you know, you've been just dealing with clients, and you come in and your family, as you walk through, they start shouting and clapping and say, yeah, yeah, she comes, you are great. Let me see a show of hands. Yeah, you have a dog, do you? Because if you have a dog, definitely they're always excited to see you. You know, we don't hear this every day. What if you could be the one that in your organization, when you walk in, they say, yeah, you are great, you know, because of the value that you bring. So unleashing your greatness, it's a way of being. It's a state of mind. It's a way that we do things. And so when we think about unleashing our greatness in this space, it's really about saying, how can I use the tools that are available to me in order to stand out from the rest? So keys to unleashing your greatness. My first key is that you need to be who you be. Can you say that with me? I know some of you are saying, boy, this is wrong English, Bushe. You know, we know, maybe you had Bantu education, you know, and it was tough in those days, but this is wrong. Well, actually, when I'm in the US, I enjoy hanging out with African Americans, and they have a different way of saying things. instead of saying be all you can be or be what you can be, they say be who you be, man. They put a twist on things. Be who you be, man. And this be who you be is about the fact that if you're going to unleash your greatness, you need to embrace who you are, embrace that which sets you apart from everybody else, and embrace who you can be. Many of us, we do the first part. We embrace who we are. So we embrace our story, our experience, and all of that. But we don't go on to do the second part, which is embracing who you can be, which is about how do I constantly improve what I deliver and how I show up every single day. So be who you be, man. It really talks about the fact that, hey, you need to find what is it that sets you apart, your distinction. And tools like what we're talking about today are some of the things that set you apart from the crowd. You know, asking yourself, okay, what makes me stand out in this industry? And what can I use to actually set myself apart from everybody else? Another key to unleashing your greatness is about pursuing excellence. You know, often we find that people are just happy with good enough. Isn't that so? You know, how many people are just happy with good enough? You know, we're just happy just to keep doing what we've always done the way we've always done it. And we're just happy with good enough. I don't know what's happening with clickers today. You know, they sort of like hang up on us. But, you know, good enough is not good enough. Can you say that with me? Good enough is not good enough. And yes, we might have used those manual tools in the past and they might have served us well. And we might have done things the way we've always done them. But if we are going to be leaders into the future, we've got to say good enough is not good enough. I've got to find new ways of doing things. I've got to set myself apart from the crowd. Because you see, a little bit of color in that sea of brown phrases makes a huge difference, isn't it? And so sometimes it is just simple things about what tools are you using to actually set you apart from everybody else. Then the last key for us this morning as we think about our industry. Listen to me, our industry. Yeah, I'm not in your industry, but you know, as you think about your industry and our industry, is what is it that we do today that helps us to create the future? When we implement and we take hold of what's available to us, the tools that are available to us, we can set a course that takes our organizations and our careers and our lives in a totally different direction, in a totally different space. The last 3 years have been very challenging for some of you. The last period has been difficult in some of the things that we've had to deal with. But as you think about the future, the challenge is, how do I use this period to reset? How do I use this period to create the future? When we think about real innovation, we often think that it's about products, it's about services, it's about being first to market, and it's about all of those things. But really, innovation is the ability to change your business model itself, how you achieve your results. And the question that I have for you is, how are you going to do that? How are you going to change your results as you go forward? And so today is a great opportunity for us to think about what's possible for us, to think about what we can do differently, to think about how we can own the future. And give up your excuses. Turn to a person next to you and say, no excuses. Give up your excuses. We always have excuses as to why we can't do what's possible for us, right? We always say, oh, no, we can't use this system. We're so used to the system that we work. No, our team is going to find it difficult to try this new thing. No, man, we work for government and we don't like change, you know, or whatever it may be. You can come up with many excuses as to why you can't do what's truly possible for you. So the challenge that I have for you is that you need to seize the opportunity of a lifetime. Seize the opportunity of a lifetime. But seize that opportunity of a lifetime in the lifetime of that opportunity. And so that's your challenge. Seize the opportunity of a lifetime in the lifetime of that opportunity. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I've always loved this quote to end. Alan Kay put it this way, that the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And so there's always a chance, there's always an opportunity to unleash your greatness, to to invent and to predict the future by inventing it today. So it's time for you to unleash your greatness and be who you be, man. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Tians and the team. Thank you.
Thank you for those words and that wisdom that you parted on us. I truly enjoyed listening to you, and that really resonated with me. Everybody say no excuses.
No excuses.
So there we go. As we go into our next part of the day, where we're going to show you the solution that we're bringing to market. We have really worked hard to adopt the skill, to get the knowledge in place, to apply it to the solutions that we have with a deep understanding of our local market. And we are so proud to invite to the stage Christian Stein, our product manager for IDEA, and Megan Booth, our corporate team lead. Let's give them a warm round of applause.
Hello and welcome from my side to the Caseware IDEA event. So Caseware IDEA has been in the market for over 30 years and have an established distributors in 7 countries, with it being used in more than 172 countries collectively. We also have a significant footprint in Africa with over 20,000 users. At Caseware, the ecosystems form part of the core offering, whereby Caseware Cloud is in the middle and empowers you with a cost-effective cloud solution, bringing all of your data together in a centralized location. Our cloud ecosystem lets you streamline business processes and it enables the team to collaborate and working more efficiently than ever before. The ecosystem has 4 pillars: financial reporting, assurance, tax, and secretarial. Today, we will be focusing on the assurance arm of the ecosystem, and we're delighted to introduce to you Caseware IDEA. So, Megan, exactly what is Caseware IDEA?
Good morning, everyone. So yeah, what is Caseware IDEA? This is a tool that's been designed by auditors, data professionals, and finance professionals. And it gives you the ability to process, connect, and gain insights from large volumes of data. This is truly an indispensable tool for any CEO, CFO, FD, or auditor wanting to optimize their business operations. With over 100 functions in IDEA, with an intuitive interface and a powerful data processing engine. Every day, over 500,000 global finance professionals rely on Caseware IDEA to gather insight and make their businesses more efficient. So IDEA provides companies with 4 different types of analytics. The first is your ad hoc, and this is your IDEA base where you can choose any type of analysis that you want to run. The guided analytics is included in the various smart analyzer apps with built-in workflows that guide you on which analysis to run. Then we move on to the advanced analytics, and with the Python plugins, you have the ability to write your own analysis, and you've also got access to a broader analytics forum where you can get analysis from that. Then lastly, the continuous analytics. So this allows you to schedule and script robotics at your company or client. So there are many analytics challenges that companies can face, and some of them are listed over here. So for example, importing your data, processing large volumes of data, generating insights from both non-financial data and financial data, communicating with those charged with governance, detecting material misstatements, understanding an entity's risk, and risk, for example, like fraud, and then compliance and governance reporting. Christian, can you show us how IDEA will actually solve some of these challenges?
Perfect. Thank you, Megan. So as Megan mentions, there's quite a few challenges that we can talk about, and we can be here all day talking about challenges when it comes to data. But let's look at some of the challenges. And you know what they say about data: if you interrogate it for long enough, it will confess. So firstly, let's look at importing data. Caseware IDEA has our superior file conversion utility, which imports data from almost any source. Excel, CSV, over 50 accounting packages such as QuickBooks Sage and Xero, together with Caseware working papers, and then Python imports as well. Caseware allows you to easily import the information from multiple sources, and it also allows you to continuously update and collaborate the data with our import assistants. The second challenge we want to address is about working with large volumes of transactions. IDEA basically has no limit when it comes to working with transactions and working with data. So you can have as many database files in your IDEA project as you want, and the File Explorer really has no limitations. IDEA measures data not in number of rows or number in columns, but rather in megabytes and gigabytes. So you will see at the bottom corner of the screen, we will tell you how much disk space you have left. And the disk space is really your only limitation. So the question is, how big is your disk? Our third and very interesting challenge is generating insights from both financial data and non-financial data. We know that companies have a lot of financial information, but as we go along and as we look at the graph from Jody, we can see information and data grows. So non-financial information is becoming as important as financial information. When we look at non-financial information, it can be categorized in 3 categories: environmental, social, and then corporate and governance, which is ESG information or reporting. So they don't necessarily have a financial impact, and we can't link it to a rand and dollar value, but it does have an impact on the business as a whole. Although there's no standard today in Africa and South Africa around ESG disclosures and reporting, the IAASB is already working on, together with the work group, bringing ESG reporting and information around that into the financial systems and into the reporting requirements. And they're basing that on ISA E3000, which is for assurance engagements other than historical reviews and audits of financial information. So although it's not here yet, it's coming, and it's coming very soon. So we should be ready and implementing those information already. So as you can see, IDEA really allows you to also work with non-financial information. So text fields, names, and descriptions within the information, all of that can now be analyzed quite easily and quickly. And then the last challenge I want to stand still a bit is then in the last mile of working with analytics within reporting. So as we're working with the data, that then needs to be communicated to those charged with governance and management. And for those of you who've done a few reports to management or those charged with governance, you will know that they don't always like the story the data tells them, and they might expect something else. So you would need information and evidence to support your reporting that you are providing and support your evidence. And with IDEA, it records every single step, every click that you make within the project automatically. So that is then recorded in an audit log, and the history can be accessed from the source import all the way to the report, giving you the ability to report back and then provide that as evidence. What makes this even better is if you then in future need to redo the analysis or want to import another new data set, you can do that, and then by clicking on the rerun button, IDEA will replicate all the steps you've done before automatically. So that brings us to monthly reporting, weekly reporting, or even daily reporting as data sets change. You can click on one button and the report can run for you. And that can then also translate into automation. So all of those processes can be automated to give you that reporting automatically. But I think for now we've had enough about challenges, and let's look at some of the possibilities together with you.
Data analytics is really changing the game for auditors, accountants, and finance professionals. Whether you are using data analytics for external audits, identifying fraudulent transactions, identifying trends, patterns, or anomalies, having a robust, high-quality solution like IDEA is more critical than ever. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a deeper look at the various markets which we have discussed. And once I'm done sort of summarizing that, I'll hand over to Christian to go into the software so you can see exactly what it does. So due to technology, organizations have huge amounts of data, and this information is growing exponentially. So when you're looking for anomalies in this massive amount of data, it can make an audit feel almost impossible. So you need to start leveraging off the knowledge found within the data already. IDEA will also provide you with insights into your controls and systems, which will ultimately drive the quality of your assurance engagements. The tax audit can be very complex due to the nature of the data and also due to the size of the data. And because IDEA analyzes 100% of the data, you can move your tax team to more forward-thinking strategic advisors. Another possibility with IDEA is fraud investigation. We provide you a host of tools and tests whereby it will help you find critical issues and ultimately tackle fraud. So Christian will now show you exactly how this is done in IDEA.
Thanks, Megan. So if we're looking at the software itself and we go into the IDEA software, we'll look at how can IDEA transform the external audit. So first of all, what I want to show you is if we just quickly import a data set for us. For those of you that don't know, Excel has a limit of 1,048,576 rows. IDEA, as I mentioned, really doesn't have any limit. So I'm going ahead and importing the file for us. So this file consists out of 10 million records, and there really is no limit as we're importing the all transaction set. It's around 1 gig's worth of data that we're importing in basically a few seconds for us ready to work with, and then to go and analyze that information. So there we can see we're almost done with the import, and there I've got my 10 million transactions ready for me to start analyzing. That wouldn't even have opened within an Excel spreadsheet because the records would have been too much. So within my database, got my 10 million records. I also have a 1 million record database. Let's quickly see how that opens, and then we can already start working with that data set. So big data really isn't a problem for IDEA, and we can bring together that information from many sources. So if we go into a general ledger, something that an external auditor will really look at quite a bit, and as Jody mentioned this morning, something the internal audit team might also want to start looking at, because you can now, at the click of a button, start running these specific tests. So I'm first going to go and click on the select and run, and I'm going to start with my general journal testing. So I want to go look at my general ledger, and for me to go and define those fields, it's a similar process that we go through when we map. And that makes IDEA flexible to work on every data set and different data sets from different accounting packages that we import from. So let's quickly go through the tagging process, and we basically tagging the information as we go along. You can see that IDEA also analyzes the information. So we guide you to select the right fields. So there's no entity code, journal entry number. And when we get to the source, there we have who's done it, the user, the date. It already identified that as the date field, the period, and then the time. Okay, so now we've tagged our data. The data is now ready to be analyzed. And what tests do we actually want to run? So I, for example, want to look at all my journals with rounded amounts. I'll click on the play button, and IDEA is starting to work through those rounded amounts. I also want to look at any missing journal entries. Let's look at the duplicates, and then also our out of balance transactions. So as I'm clicking those play buttons, it's starting, it's running those tests, and the database's results will be ready for me. I can also go in and start testing journals on weekends if I wanted to. If you're saying to me, but when is the weekend? We also provide you with an input. So if you are busy auditing a company, example, not working on Mondays, you can go and tick Mondays. It will then analyze that information and give you the Mondays. Okay, so those 4 tests are now done. So how quickly was it to do those tests? I mean, you saw it running. So there we have all of our out of balance transactions and out of balance journals. So we can basically see we have 3 out of balance journals within this data set and the number of records within each. If I click on the number of records, IDEA will open it for me, and we can already see what is happening within those transactions. That can then be saved or exported. Any duplicate journal entries, there we can see our duplicates, so we can see the journal numbers are duplicated, and then we can go and analyze it in more information. Any missing journal entries. So IDEA analyzed the data set for us. It picked up that there's 2 journal entry sources, and it analyzed those 2 for completeness. And it found that there's 5 items missing in the GL entries, and there's 1 item missing in the SC entries. And then we look at journals with rounded amounts. So if we're not a company that deals with rounded amounts a lot, there's an example of how quickly it was to identify all the rounded amounts. We've got 21 there specifically extracted for us. Okay, then looking at the general ledger as well, I'm going to generate some field statistics for us. So what this does is it analyzes all the fields, and then it gives us a quick result of the fields. So there's all my stats generated. So let's see if the general ledger is balancing. We're expecting a 0. So already I know that my general ledger that I'm working with is not balancing. So something we can go and investigate on why not, because debits and credits are then clearly not equal, and then we can see the differences. You can also click, it will export the results for you, and you can go and analyze them in more detail. And then what's interesting for me in this specific data set is also that there is quite a few zero value items. So why would we have 184 transactions in my general ledger with 0 amounts? And then we can go and investigate that. So we see there's a few paychecks going out with 0 amounts. Not sure if those employees would be happy. Some reversals. So very quickly to go and just look at some of the stats and see what's going on within this specific data set. Okay, if we then go and look at, for example, the detailed sales ledger. So here we have our detailed sales. Again, I'm going to do a bit of field stats to just have a look at what information do I have in this year. And if we look at something like cutoff, so let's go to the date field. And I want to understand when my information is from and to. So by basically the click of a button, we can see that we don't have the full data set. We're missing some information in here, and our sales records are not complete. Okay, so this is a very quick way of how an external auditor can very quickly use IDEA to identify some of the transactions, look at some of the possibilities. And then if we move on to some of the other possibilities we have within internal audits.
As businesses enhance their technologies, your team needs to deliver even higher data analytics, and this is really what Caseware enables you to do. Because IDEA analyzes 100% of the data, you can assess control performance, mitigate risks, and then also identify critical records. You can also perform repeatable tests at the click of a button, which ultimately improves the IT, financial, and operational audit. Internal audit team members can also be put at risk when identifying fraudulent transactions. So why not take that risk and put that in the artificial hands of a tool like Caseware IDEA with its automated testing and reports? You also have a consolidated view of your financial controls, and this really transforms your team from operational to more strategic advisors. So, Christian, if you can give us another go in Caseware IDEA.
Thanks, Megan. So let's look at some of our customers. So now delving a bit deeper, we want to look at some of the customer information and where we're going with customer, who's our customers, where are they based, and I'm going to look at customer number 162. So there we have a customer. We're not really understanding where they're from, clearly a different country, different language. So within IDEA, we have smart actions, and I'm going to use the smart actions. So I can do a Google Translate, and I can say, please translate that for me so that I can get an understanding of where this entity is. What is the meaning of it? So we are a jewelry company, and I want to understand, is this entity then part of what we do? They're clearly a customer of us, and where do they fit in? What we could have also done is to get an understanding of where they're based, and we could have said, okay, so the information shows that they're in Costa Rica. I could have used the smart action, and I could then say, please show where they are for me on maps. Then looking at, for example, something we call fuzzy matching. So Jody mentioned a few examples of some fraudulent transactions. We maybe want to understand, we've got our employees and we've got our suppliers. It's not normally that an employee is also a supplier of the company, but how do we know if an employee is a supplier? They're obviously not going to trade in their own name, but their address might be the same from where they are trading. So I'm going to go to IDEA Lab, and I'm going to say, please do a fuzzy join for me. And I want to look at my employee's address, and I also want to look at my supplier's address. And we are going to compare the two addresses with each other. I'm going to select a similarity degree of 80% and have IDEA analyze that for me. So this is an example of how we can use non-financial data to analyze and gain more insight of what's happening within the business. So IDEA is now going, analyzing the two address fields, looking for information, looking for similarities, and there we can see we actually have two similarities. So if I scroll to the right, we can see that as an example, there is a 100% similarity in the first one. So Mr. Han 1 is 100%. There we can see number 1 or 5214 Way Road in Shanghai. There is the same. You can see it's a bit different. It's not spelled exactly the same, but it has identified. And there we also have Morris Gold. So Morris Gold is on 345 Perry Road, and there we have 345 Perry Road as well, Julie Morris. So maybe an employee trading as Morris Gold and understanding what's going on there, identifying possible fraud. Why is an employee a supplier? Are they getting preferential treatment? And it's really something that you wouldn't have been able to pick up just by the name or just by looking at a supplier or an invoice number. And then the last item that is really quite interesting to look at is if we go into our detailed sales ledger again, we're talking about artificial intelligence, we're talking about machine learning, and it really isn't there for tomorrow. It's here enabling us today. So I'm clicking on Discover. IDEA is going to run through all my data and it's going to analyze all of that and show me the patterns and what transactions don't fit part of the patterns. So it's using that machine learning and giving me the information. So we had our detailed sales ledger, and here we have what IDEA sees as anomalies. So we've discovered what's happening within the data. So first of all, we have sales plus tax, 4 items with 0 values. So why would they be 0 values? So there's no rand amount, no dollar amount, but we can go and analyze it, maybe understand why we sold those things as a 0. And we can even see there's 32 items that were sold for 0 rands. Why was that sold? Very quickly to understand, not something that you would have seen if you just looked at a spreadsheet. Sales plus tax, we have negative records. Why would a sales plus tax be a negative record? We're not expecting credit notes to be as part of the sales ledger. So there we can go and analyze that in more information. We actually sold almost 6 units at negative price. Interesting. Let's go and explore that a bit more. And we've already dealt with the 0 item, so there's multiple columns with the 0. Interesting. Duplicate invoice numbers. So there we can see we've got a few invoices that's duplicated. Some of them same values, same amounts, not all of them. So go and understand a bit more. Is there a control breakdown in the process? How is invoice numbers allocated? What happened there? Or is there maybe fraud within the business, and understanding how that is happening? IDEA also analyzed the product codes and said to us, generally when product codes or when a product is more expensive, the number of units that you sell will be less. But in this scenario, it's actually the other way around. So there's about 90 records accounting for most of the sales, which is not how the business generally work. There we can see there's 231 record with smaller values. So clearly be in the business of trading with smaller items. So we can click on those 90 and have an understanding of what exactly is happening within those sales and why are the amounts so big. We can then also look at, as an example, IDEA identifying for us product code 6. Something is interesting in product code 6. So we have 6 full products, but product code 6 says there's only 3 transactions for the specific code, but it's 8 million worth of the value of sales. Whereas product code 5, we've sold 834, but there's 3.2 million worth. So what's happening with product code 6 is an expensive product. Is it high value items? And we can go and explore that. Again, looking at the trend within the business, the internal audit team will be best suited to know what's going on. Is it expected? Is it not expected? And that can then be analyzed and taken further. Okay, so then moving on to some of the other items together with Megan.
Great, thanks. So let's move on to corporate public sector and governance. So many of the aspects we've covered in the previous slides, but for this market, data analytics for your governance, risk and compliance is really important, as well as data analytics for accounts receivable and accounts payable. And then another critical area that's very important for this market is your payroll and your tax. So one more time, let's go.
Thanks, Megan. So possibilities are quite vast if we're looking at how many things we can do within a corporate with IDEA. There's so many different data sets. There is the financial and non-financial information, and all of that can be analyzed with IDEA. So let's again look at our employees, and we want to have a look at employees maybe being fictitious. So how many employees do we have that's staying at the same address? So here I'm going to go, again, my duplicate key detection, and I will go for exact results. So I'm going to say, please look at the address again, and I want to get an understanding of all the employees that gave me the same address. Why would they have the same address? And here we have a list of all the employees, and we can basically see that there's 8 employees, I want to say each at the same addresses. So maybe these are partners and they're living together, might be friends, but it's worthwhile understanding why do we have employees staying at the same address, and then making sure that they don't sign off each other, they don't report into each other, and putting the controls in for those specific employees. If we then go back to the employees and make use of IDEA's Discover functionality again, being a one-click, we can't really understand what's going on, but let's have a look. So there we see again, there's the duplicates. So we have 4 duplicates, which amounts to 8 employees. The net salary value, so how much did we pay in salary, and then the average for the year. We can also see a bit of a trend coming up, the information being stratified, and it's telling us that 11 of the employees is earning most of the income, and it's between 260 and 900. And maybe that's right for the company, but maybe that's not, so it's worth going and investigating. If the branches were all equal and we had all branches separated, we can see that IDEA also identified there's 4 different branches, employees or reporting from 4 different branches and being paid. But branch 3 looks interesting. So what's happening in branch 1 as an example, there we can see we've got 38 employees, they earn about 1.6 million. We've got 38 in branch 2, about 2.3, and we've got 38 in branch 4, and they earn about 1.4. Then we go to branch 3, and there's 37, so employee numbers quite equal, but they earn just over 10 million. So it's 10 times more than the other branches. So what's happening with that branch? Let's go and understand, are they making maybe a lot of profits? So there's profit share, what's going on? But that's where the corporate would then go and understand what's going on within my data. Am I expecting my employee counts? Is this what I'm expecting? Maybe you're seeing something happening at a small branch or a big branch, and that information can then go and be analyzed. I'm also going to go and look at payments. So I know we've used the Discover feature quite a bit, but it is just an example of how Discover can almost analyze any data set, and we can see information all over within the Discover functionality. So now we are in payments. So this is our payments listing. Again, interesting, one payment IDEA recognized payment shouldn't really be 0. So why is there a payment with a 0 amount made to someone? Let's go and investigate that. Maybe someone used the payment method in clause of the journals. Payments with a negative amount. Why would you have a payment with a negative amount? Go and understand that. Is that those 5 cents going out that no one's really tracking? And then EFTs. So if you have EFT numbers and you have a control process in place, we've picked up that there's 2 EFTs with the same EFT numbers. So you can go and investigate what happened there. Again, it should have been a control breakdown, or did the system not do it correctly, and understanding what happened. a payment posted by a blank. Who posted this payment? Where's this payment coming from? Why would someone not be recorded when they're paying, and who then authorized this specific payment? Another authorization of blanks. There's 3 payments not being authorized at all. How could those payments even go out? And what happened with the controls in there? So there's even an adjustment in the memo, so we can go in and understand that. There was another one that I helped from a man. So where's this help from a man coming from when that payment wasn't authorized? Clearly that man needs to get investigated. And then we have the pay date. So it said, well, normally you don't make payments on weekends, so there's 2 payments on a Sunday. What's going on with those payments on Sundays, and who then authorized it, so we can have a look at those authorizations. We can also look at the actual authorization. So there we have, I want to say, three employees or people authorizing that we might want to go and investigate, because we're seeing that HMV is authorizing quite a few transactions with high values, and we can click through and have an understanding of why they're authorizing. We can also quickly have a number of count per payment. So if we're expecting a certain role to make a lot of payments, maybe they are in the supplier team and they're supposed to be making all the payments, then that's right. But then what's all these other small users, like that TLE authorized 3 payments? Why would they have access to authorized payments if they just do 3 a year versus HMV doing 61? So let's go and understand that in a bit more detail to say, do people maybe have access to the system, or they're authorizing payments that they shouldn't be? And looking at the data, you could see I didn't have to write any scripts. I didn't have to write any information. I basically clicked on a button and had the information with me. So the last information, or the last database that I'm going to look at, is actually a web log. So most of us have information that is, as I mentioned, not non-financial, but this is not even related to the financial reporting process. So it's internal reporting. What are my employees doing, as an example, from home or on the internet when they're at the office? So that generally gets tracked. If it's news to you, I'm sorry. But it generally gets tracked by corporates. And even if it's not corporates, by your internet service provider. So I'm going to have a look at Jack Collins. So I want to see what Jack Collins has been up to. So I'm going to filter for all of the transactions by Jack Collins. And we can see that Jack Collins have been spending a bit of time on lotto, break and gambling. So maybe a discussion we might want to have with him. Did he come in late one morning? We could see he's busy until 3:30 in the mornings. So maybe a discussion can be had, and it was quite easy to just look at the data and see what's going on. Very easy way for us to understand and transform the data we have as a corporate working with that information. Okay, so that is it for the demo for me. So if we wrap up and just conclude on the IDEA process, we can see that IDEA is really powerful. There's a lot that you can do within the product, and there's many different use cases for different scenarios we want to use in the company. So IDEA consists mainly out of 3 phases, and a project is then structured in that way. So first of all, we import the data. As we said, we can import from almost any source. After that, we then go and we perform the analysis that I've just shown. So we can do that analysis. Megan mentioned the ad hoc analysis. This is what ad hoc analysis is: clicking, jumping through, doing a few tests. There is really no structure to it. You go the route the data takes you. We also have the guided analysis, where those tests in Smart Analyzer is already there. You just click on a play button and it performs it for you. We can also go Python and a more scripting route, and there we can dream up basically any analysis we want to do. We can then also report back on that analysis, look at the history, all the clicks that I've done, give that report to management and those shorts with governance, and even use that in a forensic investigation, because all those the data is proven. And once we're done, we can upload all of that information onto Caseware Cloud. Once that information is in Caseware Cloud, other employees within the business can then download that information and work with it, and then we can all collaborate on the same data set without different people having to do the same the same work. So Megan, let's conclude on some of the features within IDEA.
But I think before that, Jack Collins needs a bit of an intervention. So to conclude, so you can collect and consolidate all your information in any format. There's source data protection. So really the information that you import is not going to be changed. So there's that data integrity. You can deliver key insights for robust analysis. And we've gone through some of these. Fuzzy matching, aging, duplicate detection. It applies risk-based sample modeling. It has built-in workflows. You can explore and visualize to pinpoint trends, understand patterns, and identify outliers. You also have the ability to record every step, and this is really important. You need to have that audit trail, and you also have to have that evidence. And then lastly, you can do the advanced analysis using the Python scripting. So that's it from myself and Christian. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to present here today. Over to you, Tim.
Thank you.
So next to me, Christian is going to represent the product. We always need someone to answer those technical questions, as bright and beautiful as this young man. Then next to it, Jody, who's going to represent the external audit market. Megan, who's going to represent corporate organizations. And a new addition to our panel is Basi Motsisi, who's looking after our public sector and will represent public entities on our panel today. If you would like to pose a question, I'm going to come back to the audience shortly. For the online listeners, you're welcome to post the question using the question facility on GoToMeeting. I'm going to kick off with the first question here. Can you give us some tangible examples where corporate clients are using IDEA for the benefits they are getting from it? Megan, this sounds like a question to you.
Absolutely, thank you. So we've got a company in the large telecoms business that is using IDEA because they're not restricted to the data size or the data sets. Previously, they were using Excel and Access, and they were obviously severely restricted by the data size. So now they're able to analyze 100% of the data instead of just a small sample size. So they are improving their business decisions, or their business decision making, and ultimately they're able to leverage off the data or the large data sets, put it that way. To think of another one, we've got a manufacturing company that uses Caseware for their payroll and their tax audits. So what they do is they look for inconsistencies in, for example, the employee codes or the ID numbers, and this is obviously improving on their internal audit. So this is just some of the examples, but I think it's important to remember the scope and what Caseware can do is really broad. So these are just two different types of industries, but I mean, it's really geared towards sort of all industries. And you've got the ad hoc test, you've got the built-in test. So, and as Christian said, at a click of a button, you can discover results quite easily without having to interrogate the data in too much detail.
Thank you for that, Megan. So there's a time in your life where you have to acknowledge your shortfalls. Excuse me for putting my reading glasses on. Lianka Strachen, thank you for this question. To have your templates available indicating different fields of data required within the different sections. So basically a list of data fields required per section to ensure we collect all necessary data. Christian, this sounds like one in your ballpark.
Perfect. So I think that comes from an external auditor talking about sections and talking about the information and records and fields. So we have been working on bringing together the external audit together with IDEA and power your external audit with IDEA and with analytics. So Smart Analyzer is a great start to start off with, because I showed you how we can tag the information to different data sets. Smart Analyzer also has a data request form that will inform you and guide you to send a form to your client to say, all of these records, all of these fields needs to be provided to us in a certain format. So that's already available within the Smart Analyzer to send out to your client as a data request, because it can be quite difficult to understand the information and the records and fields we need to obtain, especially in the first year we're getting that information. And we've tried to include that and make it as easy as possible by including that in the Smart Analyzer functionality.
Thank you very much for that answer, Mr. Stein. If I already use Excel to look at my data, why should I use IDEA? Basti?
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the question. So as we all know, in the government, the data sets are massive. So for you to get the information would be really difficult. So using IDEA will make your life much easier because you can seamlessly get a lot of data, different sources into one project seamlessly and easily. The second thing I would like to mention is the integrity of the data. It's continued throughout. So whenever a user makes changes in IDEA, it will tell you who made the change, when, and why. So the integrity is always there. And lastly, I would like to also mention is that let's say, for example, you want to make sure that you're changing stuff, like you want to amend and you want to append or make any other change. The audit trail is there at all times. Thank you.
All right, Basi, thank you. That makes perfect sense. So when you look at some of the reporting and analytics tool available today, for example, Microsoft BI, Power BI comes to mind. Should a business essentially work to having both of these solutions in place? Christian, this feels like a question for you.
Definitely for me. So when we look at the two products, there's analytics and then there's reporting. And the business reporting is quite a different tool to analytics. So IDEA was designed by data and audit experts for the audit and data experts in our field and profession. Whereas Power BI is more of a reporting tool where information gets reported on. So I think Jody mentioned it this morning, the two really lives together. With IDEA, we've got the built-in tests. You can bring in all of the information, run the tests, run the analysis. And then with IDEA's ODBC drivers, we can export that directly into Power BI, have that reported on, and then different people can go and analyze and understand the information differently once we put it in a reporting tool. So I definitely think having both is the best of both worlds, because on the one side, you can analyze the data, you can schedule that, and you can run the analysis. On the other hand, you can then report on it in a way that people would understand it more easily.
Very interesting. So I read an interesting article the other day, and it speaks very much to this next question and the post-COVID world where people are turning back to insourcing, getting the power back and getting the control back into their organizations. So this question says, as a company, why would I purchase IDEA, not rather outsource my data analytics? Megan, this feels like a question for you.
100%, and I think it's a very pertinent question, considering sort of the economy or the economy that we live in with digital technologies. Do you outsource or insource? And I think with a tool like Caseware IDEA, and Jody mentioned it, you want your team to own that and drive the whole process of data analytics. So having it insourced and having the solution at your fingertips will empower your users. And ultimately, there's also there's longevity in that. Whereas if you outsource the functionality of your data analytics, you know, your company is dynamic, it's ever changing. So your request might change at a whim. If you're now dealing with an outsourced party rather, there's a lot of back and forth. And I'm sure you guys would agree, back and forth equals money. And that then sort of comes to my second point is cost effectiveness. If you insource it and you buy Caseware, you're buying it at a single price. We get you up and running. You know, we meet you at your area. You know, you're mature, you're just beginning. With outsourcing it, again, it's back and forth. It's very expensive. Charge per, you know, these guys charge per hour. I suppose that's very standard across any sort of technology software company. But I think it's definitely, you know, the two aspects that come to mind is cost effectiveness and flexibility.
Thank you for that, Megan. So this is a bit of a direct question, and I think I'm going to pose it to Jody. But why should we choose you? So I guess the question is, why should people choose Caseware Africa as their technology partner for analytics?
So I think always important when you purchase software, you want to purchase the whole experience, not just the tool. So number one, we've been in the profession in South Africa and Africa for 30 years. So we understand the regulators, we understand the domain and what you're trying to achieve in the market. We're not new to South Africa. We're not new to the profession. Number two, the software is really tried and tested. I think we're all seeing lots of new analytics tools arriving on the market. They're often very visually appealing, but can they deal with unlimited size data sets? Do they arrive with the functionality you saw this morning, where you can, at a click of a button, just get some insights without having to work out how to write a scripting thing, how to tag the data in a way, how to do all of that. So many tools arrive, powerful calculators, but they're blank. So where to start? And I think probably the most important thing about Caseware Africa is, one, our skills and the partners we work with, and our multi-dimensional offerings, from our support teams to our training teams and our consulting teams, and our global reach with Caseware. As I mentioned earlier, over 500,000 users globally for over 30 years. If you've got a problem, a challenge, something you're interested in that global network, we definitely have access to someone who's probably trying to do what you've done before or trying to do, and they've done it, they know what to avoid, they know how to solve that problem. And for us, as Megan mentioned, we can meet you where you're at. Are you just starting? Are you very mature? Do you want to introduce Python scripting? Do you want to go more into the world of machine learning? Do you want to schedule stuff? Do you want to go organizational wide? So it's very important to choose the partner that can partner with you along your maturity curve as you invest in this in your business, add value, and as I mentioned earlier, increment and build with it along the way. And that is Caseware. That is who we are.
Thank you for that, Jody. So there's multiple questions here from Franco Potgieter. Thank you for your submission. I'm going to try and consolidate into one. But what I read here, Megan, and this sounds like it's coming your way, is what is the pricing? What is the pricing structure? Can I try before I buy? So just talk us through the onboarding process and the quoting process.
Absolutely. So I think it's important to remember that each client is unique and their requirements are quite unique as well. So we usually have a first exploratory session where we do a deep dive and understand exactly what your needs are around analytics. Thereafter, we'll obviously send through a quote, and our costing is very straightforward. And as Jody mentioned, this is nowhere near the tens of millions of rands. It's very easy to get up and running. And we, again, meet you where you are. We assist with the training process, the implementation phase, and usually we're looking at about a 3-day phase from training and implementation to get you up and running, sort of to the standard of your, let's call it your guided and your advanced analytics. Obviously, we're looking more, into the continuous analytics where they're scheduling. The price might change because there'll be more time invested from our consulting team. But we really look at a holistic approach in getting our trainers involved, our support team. We'll have a dedicated account manager. So what I would suggest, though, is please leave your details in the chat functionality, and my team will get in touch with you, and we can then schedule a one-on-one where we can have a discussion and then discuss price as well, that is relevant to your industry and company.
Thank you, Megan. I know you answered on behalf of the corporate market now, but Marvin, I think that answers your question very similar for the assurance space as well. So thank you for that answer. The next one feels like it's for Christian. Can the analytic tool be utilized to perform a feasibility assessment from SEM Shapife?
Feasibility assessment. Well, I'm sure it would depend on what information would be needed to run through the analysis. What information do you have in your business itself? IDEA can use whatever data you have. We can then analyze that for you, and then we can do the ratios, do the analysis that you would need for your company, what is needed as part of that feasibility study, and that can then be scripted and worked into the IDEA information to bring that back into the report. So I think it's one we'll have to sit with them to understand a bit more and work through what the requirements are, but IDEA can definitely analyze information for feasibility studies in different companies, yes.
Fantastic. Franco, thank you for your quick response on Megan's request. I see you've already put your email address and your telephone number in the chat facility. May I ask our online audience, anyone else who would be interested in a demonstration and the onboarding discussion around the discovery phase, please put your details for us in the chat facility. I'm going to take one more question online, and then I'm coming to our in-studio audience. I haven't forgotten about you. How hard is it for public sector clients to adopt IDEA? Basi, this feels like it's coming straight your way.
It's quite simple. So basically what you need to do is to give us your information. We gather all the information, we give you a quotation, and then we take you through the quotation, and then you are up and running and get you training as well as implementation, just like Megan has said.
And in terms of how quickly can they get value, so how quick is it for them to start? I think, Jody, this segues into a question I read here from Adrian Wasterweeks. My apology if I have said your surname incorrectly. For someone just implementing IDEA, what would you recommend as an easy win, an easy procedure, or an example that I can get value out fast?
So I think to answer both questions, we always start with, is there a problem in the business today that's worrying you? So I think with some of the examples you saw with Christian, if we took the example in public sector maybe of comparing payroll banking details and supply chain management bank details, it would be as simple as using the templates to gather the information sets of the two systems, importing them as you saw from Christian and doing the fuzzy matching. That is like one day, once you've got the data, you will have value that day in that sense. There's no limitation on the data sizes. As we know in public sector, we've got deep relationships in public sector today. We understand a lot of the financial data in those areas today already in our business. So to work with the relevant teams, I'm not sure in public sector if it's coming from an internal audit point of view or financial manager point of view, but we could work directly with you, with your IT team, access that data, and you would get value very quickly. How far you want to take it and the specific issues you might want to address. We have access to experts that have also worked in those areas, and the tests are unlimited that you can perform. With access to Python scripting, you can be quite sophisticated around them. In my experience, you often find value in quite simple tests. It's just no one's joined the data together to have a look at it in that kind of way. So that was the one test, the one answer. I think the other answer I would always say is to deliver value quickly is often led by a business concern or business question that's tried to be answered. So I would start in any business with a key stakeholder who's got something that's worrying them. Work around that small unit of value, get the data. Once you've got the data in, as you saw, IDEA arrives with many built-in tests. So for example, if you're saying debtors, accounts receivable are just worrying me in my business, and you get that data set in, you run through it, you start looking at who's processing what. Are there any strange patterns in the value of the transactions? Are there any strange transactions in debtors receipts being processed on the weekend when your business doesn't operate on the weekend and you know your finance team doesn't operate in the weekend? Very quickly, you'll be able to say, is there something more for me to look at here? Or does it on face value with the data look okay? So I think start. My advice is everyone in their business today will have something that's just niggling at the back of their mind. Go to that place, start small, understand how IDEA works, understand how your data extracts work from your core systems, and you'll surprise yourself how quickly you can deliver value.
Thank you for that, Jody. Herbert online is saying that he's not seeing the email addresses and telephone numbers coming through. They are popping up as questions on my screen, so it gives us the opportunity to get back to you. So please just submit in the form of a question. your details so we can get back to you. I want to turn to our in-studio audience. Is there anyone that sits here with us today that's got a question that we can answer for you?
My name is Comfort, and I'm a consultant working in the public sector area. Okay, my question is, I just wanted to understand how customizable is Caseware IDEA, because I'll give you an example where we have, we're working with revenue in the public sector, where we're trying to avoid revenue leakage. You've got clients that are, you've got tariffs that are being charged to customers. I'm sure you've received statements from City of Joburg where you've got your water, your electricity, and you want to make sure that those tariffs that are being applied are correct. The meter readings that are being done that are input into the system are correct. So when the client bills at the end of the month, you want to make sure that the municipality is billing the correct charges for your water and your electricity. And so my question is, how customizable is it to perform recalculations on Caseware IDEA that can be used to test what is coming from the other system that is correct? And then my second question also will be...
Let's just pause there for a second and get to this question. It feels like it's one for Christian Jody Couch.
So I think I've showed you the report writer. So the report writer is quite interesting because you could basically take all the emails and the reports that were sent out by, if we take the City of Joburg, all those statements that were sent out, you can import them back with the report writer and then compare it to the initial system to say, okay, the initial meter reading was ABC, then the meter reading that is now billed is XYZ. And then those can be reported as anomalies. So IDEA is 100% customizable. There's no templates coming with it. You've got your analysis tab at the top with all the features and functionality in it. And then you've got your general smart analyzer tests. But other than that, IDEA is 100% customizable, fit for any data set. So you can bring in multiple data sets. You might want to bring in one from the meter reading company. You might want to bring in the City of Joburg's. And then you might want to bring in the people who does the billing. All three of them have it compared and give you the analysis and the summary of where there's differences. So that's definitely possible.
Fantastic. Thank you for that answer. Comfort, your second question, or is it answered in the first?
Okay. My second question is just that I see there's a lot of importing that you can do from different databases. Is it possible to integrate real time the data that from the system to almost like seamlessly integrate where data is feeding into IDEA seamlessly without you having to import and then continue monitoring or something like that?
Yes. So within IDEA, we already have some built-in imports, as I've shown. There's about 50 plus accounting packages if you have it already, and all of those can be scripted. So if depending on the accounting package that the client is using, if they're using an SQL database, there can be a direct link created. So that can then be created, and that can be done as part of that initial consulting process, understanding what accounting package you want to import from. And for Pastel Partner, as an example, we have built a one-click import. So you click on the button, it imports all the Pastel information, and we've imported all of those databases already for you. And if there's then a specific accounting package we're looking at, working with you to understand what information do you want to bring in, from what sources do we want to bring it in, and that can then be scripted and automated so that it's not a process of you having to import it and tag and map it every single time that you bring it in.
Fantastic. Do you feel answered and heard? Great. I saw a hand on this side. I'm going to walk the long way around so I don't get my face too close to the camera.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Sade. I'm actually the head of digital audits at PCAP Octagon. I've got a couple of questions, but I'm only going to ask 4 now, and I'll maybe approach you afterwards.
It's maybe do them one at a time.
Yeah. So, Pastel Partner, the import that you just spoke about, how does that work? Is it an import directly from the customer's backup? Because those are pervasive files. So, does it import like that?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna approach you afterwards to ask about that one.
He's very approachable.
The other question I had is, I read in our pamphlet that there's obviously Caseware working papers integration with IDEA. Can IDEA directly pull the working trial balance from Caseware into IDEA?
Yes. So what we've done with the working papers and the pastel integration is we've built an import tool and an integration tool between the two different files. So when you're using our probe audit methodology, we've integrated pastel partner test into the probe audit methodology. So basically what happens is you click on the pastel partner button, you point it to the backup file. So we don't import directly from the client's information, but from a backup file. It brings in all the relevant databases. We use a data standardization format where we standardize that information. And then we've got IDEA tests built on top of that. You then go into working papers, link the two, and then there's a button in working papers itself that you click. Once you click that, we go into IDEA, we perform the tests for you, and when the results are done, we bring it back into working papers. So you basically end up in working papers with your work program and then your sample selection for that section when you're using the probe methodology already included. And if you're using a different methodology, we can look at how do we incorporate that for you as well.
Okay. So I saw the button on the screen when you're showing it. I don't see that button on my IDEA. Is it actually an add-on, or is
so that's installed separately. There's no cost to it, but it is installed separately. So when you go onto the Success Community, there's a transaction utility as part of the Success Community and your My Software page. So all of the imports that we're building, as we build more and more on those mostly use accounting packages, will add to that transaction utility. So pastel partner is step one in the process, and we're looking at a few more of the others that we can import.
Then in terms of training, I know that you do provide training in for some of the beginner courses. Now, what I'd like to understand is, where can I go view when that training is taking place? And then also, is there a scripting course available in South Africa? An advanced scripting course.
So the training calendar is available on the Success Community. We've been trying to schedule training at least, I think it's once a month, to have that more consistent within IDEA level 1. So that's happening locally. We actually have our most resident trainer in the room as well, so we can also touch base with him. So the training is scheduled around once a month, and those will be more regular as we get more demand for those training sessions. With regards to the scripting course, that we do on demand, and it is available virtually through our Canadian distributor. So they offer that, and we can also just send look at the links and the information there. Or if you want a custom course just for you, where you can take away some of the items practically, we can also work with our training team to say, okay, what do you want to achieve at the end, and how can we get that scripting team and then training done in-house.
And then the last one, I'm just going to quickly ask, and then the rest I'll approach you later. It was just surrounding a troubleshoot function. So, for instance, if we have installed one of the add-ons from the IDEA Lab, the range joins, or maybe pandas profiling, something like that. If we start struggling with the functionality, where can we report that?
So that's our normal Caseware support desk. So you can use the chat functionality on the Success Community, or you can phone in. So our support desk, we have a dedicated support team for IDEA. You can phone them. They will then assist you with those specific questions. They obviously can't assist with data specific items, but if it's in terms of functionality, they can assist you with the functionality. If we can't help you, as Jody said, we're part of a network, we can escalate it. We can find out from the development team in Canada, and we'll follow an escalation process to get to that answer for you.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. I'll
Pleasure.
talk to you later.
Thank you very much. Appreciate those structured questions and your thinking process to get yourself to that point. I just want to see by show of hands, any last questions from our in-studio audience? Fantastic. Then, Jody, I've saved the last question for myself that I want to direct to you. Say you were the leader of a team and you attended this event today. and you leave this event and you go back to your office, what would be your next steps to bring what we've heard and experienced today to life?
So I think in any of the roles, whether I was in a financial management team, in an internal audit team, or an external audit, digital auditor, like our lady in the audience, is one, I would share what I saw today with my team and say, we have to get going. If we're not doing it today, we have to get going. I would certainly find the person in my team that's the most interested to own and take this on. What we've seen in our own experience, if you go where the passion is, those people in your team will amaze you. They can't stop, they work late at night, they want to delight you, they get excited by what they discover and what they see is so easy to do. And I would reach out to my account manager or to someone at Caseware to find out how much it costs, because I think historically it's often felt overwhelming. You're going to spend a fortune on just the data imports and it's going to be massive consulting fees, and how do I get going? And I have no doubt that everyone on the call and in the room today will be surprised actually how little it takes to get going and how quickly you get a positive return on investment. So to me, I would definitely go back and find out, how am I going to implement this in my team in the shortest period of time to really change how we look at things around us and the impact my team could have in the business and the organization that we're in.
Thank you very much for that. I think that brings me to the end of this fantastic hybrid event. Thank you for every person who got in their car and made it here today. There's a little gift bag that you can take with you to say thank you for your effort. For every person who joined us online today, thank you for taking the time to spend it with us and to learn more about the analytics topic. We are looking forward to serve you in any way that you possibly want to ask any more questions. Leave us your details and we will reach out to you. For our in-person audience, you're welcome to join us outside. There will be 3 stations, one for IDEA for internal audit, IDEA for external audit, and the last one for corporates, public sectors, and also for governance. I wish you a safe drive home. There's also some snacks left and coffee and tea for the online audience. We hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much and goodbye.